Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivaradhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvarajagacharya Astatara Sadasi Srimad Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham ki Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Jamuna Mai ki Bhakti Devi ki Tulsi Maharani ki Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya ki Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki Shri Shri Radhe Shyam Sundar ki Shri Shri Gauranitai ki Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 54, The Marriage of Krishna and Rukmini, text number 46. Nātmano nyena saṁyogo viyogaś sati tad-dhetutvāt tad-prasiddher dṛg-rūpābhyāṁ yathā raveḥ nātmano nyena saṁyogo viyogaś sati tad-dhetutvāt tat-prasiddher dṛg-rūpābhyāṁ yathā raveḥ.
tad-dhetutvāt tat-prasiddher dṛg-rūpābhyāṁ yathā
Ladies, please. No, not. ātmanaḥ, for the self. Anyena, with anything else. Saṁyogaḥ, contact. Viyogaḥ, separation. Cha, and. Asataḥ, with that which is insubstantial. Sati, O discriminating one. Tat, from it, the self. Hetutvāt, because of originating. Tat, by it, the self. Prasiddheḥ, because of being revealed. Dṛg, with the sense of vision. Rūpābhyām, and visible form. Yathā, as. Raveḥ, for the sun. Translation, this is Lord Balaram speaking to Rukmini. O intelligent lady, the soul never undergoes contact with or separation from insubstantial material objects because the soul is their very origin and illuminator. Thus, the soul resembles the sun, which neither comes in contact with nor separates from the sense of sight and what is seen. Purport as explained in the previous text, the conditioned soul ignorantly assumes himself to be the material body and thus rotates in the cycle of birth and death. In fact, matter and spirit are co-energies of the original source of everything, the Supreme Lord, who is the Absolute Truth. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad-Gita 7:5, Jiva bhutam mahabāho yayedam dharyate jagat. The material world is sustained by the living being's desire to exploit it. The material world is like a prison. Criminals are determined to commit crimes, and thus the government finds it necessary to maintain a prison system. Similarly, the Supreme Lord maintains the material universes because the conditioned souls are determined to rebel against him and try to enjoy without his loving cooperation. Thus here the phrase tad-dhetutvāt is used to describe the soul, meaning that the soul is the cause of matter assembling itself into a material body. The term tat-prasiddher indicates that the soul is the cause of the body's being perceived, and the same term also indicates that this fact is well known to the enlightened. Besides its given meaning, the word ātmanaḥ in this verse may indicate the Supreme Soul, in which case the term tad-dhetutvāt indicates that Lord Krishna expands his personal potency and thus manifests the material universe. Since the Lord exists eternally in his pure spiritual body, he never becomes material as indicated here. Nātmano, nyena saṁyogo, viyogaś sati, tad-dhetutvāt, tat-prasiddher, dṛg-rūpābhyāṁ, yathā raveḥ. O intelligent lady, the soul never undergoes contact with or separation from insubstantial material objects because the soul is their very origin and illuminator. Thus the soul resembles the sun, which neither comes in contact with nor separates from the sense of sight and what is seen. So here, Lord Balaram is speaking to Rukmini. This happened after Lord Krishna kidnapped Rukmini just before she was going to be married with Shishupal. So, as a result of the kidnapping, Shishupal's associates, kings like Jarasandha and others, they challenged Krishna, and Krishna defeated them. Krishna with his army defeated them. And Krishna, he was ready to kill. Rukmi came forward to challenge Krishna, and Krishna was ready to kill him, but Balaram advised against it. And then Krishna bound Rukmi and disfigured him by cutting off parts of his hair and beard. And Rukmini was very much in anxiety. She had pleaded with Krishna, please don't kill my brother. So she was in considerable distress. So Balaram, he took the role of a mediator, and he spoke to Krishna some words, then spoke to Rukmini, then spoke to Krishna, then to Rukmini. So he was chastising Krishna. Maybe I have to turn it this way. So he was chastising Krishna. Why have you done this? He's, after all, your relative, and you shouldn't mistreat relatives. And then he would address Rukmini, don't be in distress. Your brother anyway is misbehaving. So he was just pacifying the situation. So here, part of his, in talking to Rukmini, is philosophical. And here he's explaining how the soul is different from the material body, and ultimately even the material body suffers some distress, happiness or distress. The soul is always transcendental. And the example he's giving here is the sun, which neither comes in contact with nor separates from the sense of sight and what is seen. So the position of the soul is transcendental, but in the material world, the souls are misidentifying with the material body and become entangled in all kinds of material desires, and which leads to all kinds of material activities, and that causes karma, and so the soul becomes bewildered in material existence. And due to that, karma has to take birth again and again in different species of life, especially It's especially in a human form of life that the living entity creates karma. The human being is responsible for his activities because in human life we get extensive knowledge from the scriptures, from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, as to the nature of the soul, the nature of our eternal relationship with Krishna, the temporary nature of the material world, the material body. But if one doesn't pay attention to that knowledge, and if one doesn't apply that knowledge in one's life in the human form, if one rather uses the human form for sense enjoyment, and if one performs all kinds of sinful activities, then one creates bad karma, and that bad karma causes one to take birth in lower species of life. When the living entity goes down to lower species of life, he doesn't create more karma, but rather is working off the karma that he created in a human form. Because if he would get more karma for his behavior in animal species, he would not be able to rise up again. Say like the animals or monkeys or dogs, they are doing all kinds of mischief. And if a human being would do such activities, he'd be subject to punishment. Dogs are biting people, and the monkeys are stealing, arguing, fighting. So human beings behave like that, they create bad karma. But the monkeys and dogs and other animals, they're already in a lowly condition, suffering condition. So they don't create more karma. Gradually their bad karma becomes worn off and they rise up through different species. Prabhupada, as we know, said that cow, lion, and monkey, from those species, the next birth is human. So they've come up through many species. Maybe living entity has gone very far down into an insect body due to very bad karma. It takes a long time to come back to human form of life. Many, many different births. Whereas someone who's maybe not so sinful, he goes down to some degree and then he comes up again relatively more quickly. So in this way, in the material world, there's a system whereby living entities are punished or suffering from the results of the activities they performed in a human form of life. And here in the purport it's mentioned that the material world is like a prison. Criminals are determined to commit crimes, and therefore the government has to maintain a prison system. So the same thing, the living entities are marginal energy. They have a tendency to rebel against the service of the Lord. Their constitutional position is to serve the Lord. The living entities in the spiritual world are always absorbed in the loving devotional service of the Lord, and therefore they don't fall down. At least it's extremely rare that a living entity can fall from his position in the spiritual world. But nevertheless, there is a slight chance, and as a result, some living entities are taking birth in the material world, and they think they can enjoy separately from the Lord, but actually they're not really relishing or experiencing genuine pleasure, genuine satisfaction. Rather, it's simply illusion. And everything is moving very fast, time is moving on. A living entity may get some fleeting happiness in some way or another, but the overall situation is that living entities are transmigrating from one body to another, and therefore they're suffering repeated birth, death, old age, and disease. So the solution, as we hear from the scriptures, is to engage in the devotional service of the Supreme Lord, and there's a very comprehensive system which we learn from the acharyas, from Krishna himself, from the acharyas, from the scriptures. And if we apply that knowledge in our lives, then we can avoid a sinful activity and avoid having to go down into lower species of life. Rather, we can progress in spiritual life if we are sufficiently determined and sufficiently absorbed in Krishna consciousness. At the end of this life, we can go back to the spiritual world. If not, we may take birth again as devotees and continue to perform devotional service until we become purified enough and Krishna conscious enough, and then we can go back home, back to Godhead. So we're very fortunate that at this point in time, the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya has expanded all over the world, especially due to the efforts of our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, who actually went all over the world and preached Krishna consciousness, and of course his followers who he inspired to assist him and to continue his work, and also due to previous acharyas who gave the inspiration to Srila Prabhupada to perform this important work. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, especially more recent acharyas, they were very instrumental in shaping the Krishna consciousness movement in the way that we know it today, in the way that Srila Prabhupada established it. Srila Bhaktivinoda, both of them actually wrote many books about Krishna consciousness, many important books to guide the devotees. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the first to write books in English, and he trained his son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, to print books, to write books, print books. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very instrumental in creating the first organized movement in the form of Gaudiya Math, which had many branches throughout India and even in other countries. He was the first to send disciples to the Western world to preach. So he had a very far-reaching vision. I had read a book by our god sister, Mula Prakriti Devi Dasi, Srila Prabhupada, a friend to all, as I recall. That's the name of the book. In there is an interview with Nayananda Das Babaji, Nayanananda, I think, Nayanananda Das Babaji, who was the pujari at Champahati, one of the holy places on Navadvip Mandal Parikrama. So he was recalling how once there was a big program during the parikrama at Champahati. There were thousands of devotees there. Many tents, hundreds of tents were pitched there in the temple grounds. And there was a special program to welcome back one of the sannyasis who Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had sent to London. As we know, those sannyasis didn't have a lot of success, but at least they had gone, so that was considered glorious. So he was welcoming them back, and he was giving a lecture, and this Nayanananda Das Babaji was standing over to the left side of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, I would not hesitate to spend gallons of blood in the form of the resources of the Gaudiya Math to spread Krishna consciousness in the Western countries. And as he was saying that, he was turned over and looked at someone standing behind Nayanananda Das Babaji, and he said, I predict that in the future one of my disciples will go to the Western world and he will bring the whole world back here to Sridham Mayapur. So Nayanananda looked around and he saw behind him Abhay Babu, Abhay Charnaravinda Das, our Srila Prabhupada. So in this way, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had indicated that Abhay would in the future accomplish this important mission. There is also another incident related by Govinda Maharaj, who is the disciple of Sridhar Maharaj, and after the departure of Sridhar Maharaj, he became the Acharya. He was, there's a couple of things that he mentioned, interestingly enough. He was a brahmachari in Calcutta when Srila Prabhupada was living there. Prabhupada had rented two houses side by side, one for his family and the other one was for his business, pharmaceutical business. But upstairs there were some rooms which he gave to the Gaudiya Math sannyasis whenever they came to Calcutta. So sometimes Sridhar Maharaj would stay there, or Keshav Maharaj would stay there. And Govinda Maharaj, he also would stay there. He was a brahmachari, he was studying Sanskrit, and he didn't know the scriptures very well at the time, he said. But Srila Prabhupada used to organize programs in houses of different people, and he would ask Govinda Brahmachari to sit on the Vyasasan and read the verses because people, you know, by culture respect the saffron cloth. So Govinda Maharaj said he didn't know the philosophy so well at the time, so he would just read the verse, and Prabhupada would then, from sitting on the floor, he would give the lecture. So in this way, he was, you know, he was very adept at using techniques to attract people, and, you know, then he would inject Krishna conscious knowledge into their hearts. But anyway, there's a later incident that he relates when they were in Mumbai. near the end of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's sojourn on this planet, Sridhar Maharaj, Govinda Brahmachari, and other devotees had gone to Mumbai to open a branch of the Gaudiya Math. And Srila Prabhupada at that time had also gone with his family to Mumbai, and he had opened a business there, and he was helping them in their preaching work. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur came there, and they, as we know, they requested, why not make Abhay Babu the president of this center? He's very qualified. But Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati replied, no, it's not the time. He'll do everything in his own time. So anyway, there was some discussion going on who will go to the West to preach. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's desire was very, very strong to spread Krishna consciousness in the West. So they were discussing, and he said, Narottamānanda will go. The Narottamānanda later became Madhav Maharaj. I'm not Madhusudan Maharaj or Madhav Maharaj, but anyway, he was a Brahmaji at that time. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, Narottamānanda will go. But Narottamānanda said, please, Gurudev, I cannot tolerate separation from you. Don't send me there. So then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, then Abhay will do. He will go. So he had a great vision, and he was looking among his disciples who can accomplish this mission. Prabhupada at that time, of course, was a householder, so he was tied down by various responsibilities, but as we know, even from the first meeting with his spiritual master, he had that strong desire to serve him in that way by preaching Krishna consciousness in English and spreading it all over the world. That was the very first instruction that he got when his friend Narendra Mullik took him in 1922 to meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then Gaudiya Math had just perhaps one center in Ultadanga Road, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was preaching there, and he was giving darshan on the roof. And Narendra Mullik had invited our Srila Prabhupada to go, but Prabhupada was not too keen, having seen many sannyasis come to his father's house, mainly just for eating. So he was not, and he was also a follower of Gandhi. He thought that, gaining liberation from the British was the most important thing. So anyway, as soon as they came, somehow his friend convinced him this is a very special sadhu. And when they came in the presence of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, immediately he told them, you're very intelligent young men, you should take up this Krishna consciousness and spread it all over the world. So he had a very great vision, and he was looking for intelligent persons to understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and spread it far and wide with great determination. So we see these different incidents during the life of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati when he indicated that Srila Prabhupada was a suitable candidate, and we know also Prabhupada wrote that letter to him, I think 1936, in which he said, I'm a grihasta, can't serve you intimately like the brahmacis and sannyasis, but please tell me how best I can serve you. And his Gurudev wrote back that you spread this Krishna consciousness in the English language all over the world. And another, of course, very important instruction he gave him on the banks of Radhakund once during, I believe, Rajmandal Parikram. He was walking with his spiritual master on the bank of Radhakund, and that's when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, Agun Jalbi, there'll be fire in the mat, because he had built a big temple in Bagh Bazar, a marble temple, but there was some tension among the senior disciple who would stay in which room, and he was feeling that the mat may break apart. So he gave the instruction to Srila Prabhupada that my desire was to print books. So he said, if you ever get money, print books. So these are the foundational instructions on which Srila Prabhupada traveled ultimately to the West after a long time, after a long preparation, living in Vrindavan austerely for many, many years, and translating books. Also, as we know, he began Back to Godhead magazine in a newspaper form in 1944 and continued publishing it all the way till he left the planet. And of course it became a color magazine after he came to the West, and distribution went as high as 1 million copies every month. So Prabhupada, he always meditated. Since the first meeting with the spiritual master, he meditated on how to execute that instruction, and Krishna gave him more and more intelligence how to do it. And we see how he's manifested today in this worldwide ISKCON organization, and so many nice books Srila Prabhupada wrote and produced, founded the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust to publish those books and have them translated into all the major languages of the world. So therefore, BBT is the major producer, publisher of books on ancient Indian philosophy. So this is a wonderful accomplishment of Srila Prabhupada, and we learned also from these books about our real identity as eternal spirit souls, eternal servant of Krishna, and how to nourish that eternal identity and develop one's consciousness, one's life on the basis of that spiritual understanding, so as to transform our life, our consciousness, from material consciousness into spiritual consciousness, and how to influence others also so that their lives are changed. And we can see here in Vrindavan over the years how this temple has flourished and attracted more and more people to the holy dam, so they can also get the benefit of deities association and the benefit of Srila Prabhupada's books and the association of the devotees. I remember coming here first time. It was actually almost exactly 50 years ago, in 1974. Srila Prabhupada had it wasn't the first Gaur Purnima festival, but probably the first very big Gaur Purnima festival, when many, many devotees came from all over the world. So that time, this Raman Reti was just a village area, very quiet area. This building hadn't manifested, the foundations were there, some pillars. Prabhupada's house was there, but it wasn't completed. As we know, Prabhupada, he liked to move into his quarters whether they were completed or not. So the floor was still like concrete. The walls didn't have any plaster on them. But he was staying there, and devotees were staying in Fogal Ashram, and he would come there to give the lectures. But he had very clear vision how to develop the Krishna consciousness movement, how to develop the Krishna Balaram Mandir. And over the years, we've seen how that vision unfolded and continues to unfold because of Prabhupada's great faith in the instructions of his spiritual master and previous acharyas, and of course the instructions of Krishna. So these are the foundations of our movement. The books, as Prabhupada says, are the basis. So we need to study these books regularly, as you are holding Srimad Bhagavatam class here every day, and that's going on in temples all over the world, so that devotees and people in general who are inclined can develop this spiritual knowledge and learn how to practically apply it in their lives. We heard, I can't remember who mentioned about Prabhupada speaking to Vishal. In the morning, the Gurukul boys used to clean the pathways around the temple, throwing water and sweeping it with brooms. And one morning Prabhupada came out, and Vishal, he was a very bold devotee. He could go into Prabhupada's room at any time and speak very frankly and intimately with Prabhupada. Most of us were very timid, and we wouldn't have dared to do such a thing. But anyway, that morning Prabhupada came out, and Vishal began reciting a nice verse from the first chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We think that we have met your grace by the will of providence. The verse continues, just to accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross over the dangerous ocean of Kali. So after he got to the word providence, Prabhupada stopped him and tapped his cane on the ground. There was some water hadn't been brushed away. He said, "Is this the will of providence?" And Vishal responded very nicely, "No, Srila Prabhupada, it's my fault." And Prabhupada said, "Do something practical," he said, "clean it up." So Prabhupada gave us great philosophy, but he also trained us and insisted that we put that philosophy into practice on a day-to-day basis in our lives. Not that we just read some books and go to sleep. No, he wanted the devotees to work hard to expand the mission of Krishna consciousness, because this is very important for spiritual progress. It's not just theoretical knowledge, but it's knowledge that one has to apply practically, and in that way one can teach others also how to practically apply this knowledge, and that will expand the movement more and more. And Prabhupada, of course, gave great stress to all kinds of preaching activities, book distribution, public Harinam Sankirtan, public programs. He was very, very pleased when devotees did that. I remember we were doing traveling Sankirtan in England in 1972, 73, and Prabhupada wrote us a letter in which he said that, I'm very pleased to hear of the good news of traveling Sankirtan and that people are taking interest there. He said, in this way, you go from town to town and do some Harinam Sankirtan, distribute books, distribute a little prasadam. If some people are interested, then you hold some program in their homes or in a hall. And in this way, you spread the Sankirtan movement all over England and Scotland and Wales. And if there are other places also, like Ireland, he said, you go there also. So he had the same mood and the same vision as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how to push forward the Krishna consciousness movement. Once Prabhupada said this is a pushing movement. So pushing this knowledge out into the world, because this is Kali Yuga and Kali is pushing in the other direction. Even in our short lives, we've seen how much progress or regression Kali has made in bewildering the conditioned souls in the human forms of life in this world, and the world has become very degraded. But at the same time, Krishna consciousness movement is gathering momentum, and Vrindavan and Mayapur have become so congested due to the attraction of the Krishna consciousness movement and the devotees from all over the world. So people are attracted to come and see and participate. So in this way, the Sankirtan movement is unfolding and expanding. We are small parts of that Sankirtan movement, but by keeping properly situated in the process of sadhana and being busy in devotional service, then we are becoming uplifted and we're helping others to become uplifted, and ultimately, hopefully all go back to Godhead. As Prabhupada said once, I think Basam Shinder asked him, will I be able to go back to Godhead after leaving this body? And Prabhupada said, yes, you will go, I will go, this devotee will go, that devotee will go. We'll all go together and we'll have another ISKCON there in the spiritual world. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Yes, we have a comment here from Shuddhi Prabhu.
Very nice, all of Prabhupada's activities. When I was in Mumbai in 1971, Prabhupada took us to that Gaudiya Math to have lunch. One of Prabhupada's godmothers pulled me aside, and he said, your spiritual master probably will never tell you this, but as a householder, he almost single-handedly supported this temple, and without him, we never could have kept it going. But Prabhupada never mentioned it, and I'm amazed that they didn't send him anything. You'd think if he single-handedly supported it, they would have said something when he went to the West, but he never mentioned it or begrudged or resented. He asked for help, but he never said, look how much I've done, you should reciprocate, and I was amazed at that.
He had that strong faith in his spiritual master's instructions that even if necessary, he would do it single-handedly, and he did. And inspired others. Because of that faith and that determination, he was able to inspire so many young people, and they're inspiring more and more. So it is snowballing effect, and movement is going on, getting stronger and bigger. Okay, I can't go on along here. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Haribol.